I saw this video performance that you did called Nomo, and you were with this kind of a chain on the water.
Yeah, I made it.
And with the latex.
Yes, I made it my tail.
Yeah,
one of my dreams that came true.
Okay.
Of course.
But which is the material of this,
the headpiece or the dress?
The headpiece.
The headpiece it's made of chains, of metal chains.
Ah, really metal.
Yes. Okay. It was actually, there were pieces of ready-made bijouterie. So actually, it's Denny who designed.
Yeah.
He's Denny who gives the hands, the physical body, to design the costume or the scenography. And Kaartik is the soul, the spirit that embodies that character, that story.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So, welcome to Maya Pavilion podcast, a space for art and discussion, a space to reconnect people once again, to reconnect communities, and a space to share our ideas and to upgrade our vision of the world, vision of the future. Now more than before, during this lockdown, we feel the need to upgrade our system, refresh our mind, and reconnect. And that's why today we're going to cover two topics about the future of performing art and a new way to live in harmony with the world, with the oneself, and with the surrounding. And today we have a special host. It's Denny Fiorino. Welcome, Denny Fiorino.
Thank you, Andrea.
Denny Fiorino is an Italian-Polish performing artist. He studied architecture and design in Trieste, contemporary dance at Merce Cunningham studio in New York, graduate in drama, art and music at Dams University, certified yoga teacher and classical Indian dancer in India, where has been renamed Kaartik, founder of indiemotion, a creative platform to lead collaborative processes for performance and production, cultural events and educational programs in movement. In the beginning of the last year, he created kdindie, which is a trinary digital identity, an intersection of dance, design and new media. And anyway, he performed for international companies, cultural institutions in Germany, Canada, UK, France, Australia and Portugal. And now he's in Berlin. But let's talk about your experience in India, first of all. So I want to ask you, who gave you this name, Kaartik, and why?
Sure, yes. I actually has been known in Italy, but also worldwide as a performing artist called Kaartik, because it's a stage name that I choose to use after has been entitled a yoga teacher in India with this spiritual name, because there is a tradition and also a science of numerology or symbology in India to give a special name that brings you, helps you to develop the spiritual aspect of your life. Cool. So I love that name. I'm still using it as a dancer, as a interpreter. So when I have to embody different stories as an actor, as a performing artist, a dancer, we are embodying other stories, other lives, other souls, spirits, and this is also the dynamic of the yogic path experience. It's a whole life experience to embody and to integrate different bodies, because we don't have only one physical body. This one that you can see now without any mask or costume that I used to wear for my acts has been called Denny. But yes, India helped me to conceive also the many aspects of one being. Actually, in Hindu culture, for example, one god from the pantheon can have many names to depict the different aspects of that spiritual being. But we humans, I do believe, are the same. We are not only, for example, professionists in one area, as art field, for example, but we can be also a teacher, we can be a partner, we can be a child, a son, or a mother, a father. So we represent also different aspects, right, in our life.
How long have you been in India? How long?
For this yoga teacher training course, the last time was 6 months. Pretty intensive because I had to conform with all the costumes of Hindu culture. So wearing in Hindu's way, acting and living the daily life in an ashram, so in a protective environment. Yes.
Okay. And which is the biggest lesson that you brought from this experience in India?
Acceptance. Acceptance of the diversities. And this is one of the main aspects I started to develop also through my artistic research, and as a statement of uniting diversities. So in India there is this motto actually of their culture that is very diverse from north to south, east and west. There are many states that speaks also different languages, that wears differently, that believes also in different gods. And for them, all this variety can be united, because actually the philosophy of yoga that started there is to unite. Is actually to link everything, everybody.
Wow! And this unification reminds me this society experiment, which came exactly from India, in the south of India. It's called Auroville, which is supposed to be experimental township, which was founded in the 1974. By true guru, spiritual guru and occultist Mira Alfassa and Sri Aurobindo, which is a philosopher, yogi. And I mean, the description of Auroville that I found in the website, they say that Auroville wants to be an universal town where men and women of all countries are able to live in peace and progressive harmony, above all creeds, all politics, and all nationalities. And the purpose of Auroville is to realize human unity. And this is very beautiful. I don't know, from the 1964 till now, how much of this vision was created. No, it was succeed along the time. But my question is, do you have been, also you told me you have been visiting Auroville for a short amount of time, and what's your impression, and do you think that in a time of a global crisis like we are living today, is places like Auroville can be a possible solution for living in peace and harmony? Do you think this is just a dream, or can be...
But actually these intentional communities, how they are called, the aim is actually to to create and to produce, and so work in all the areas, the departments for the social system. How in the city or in villages, also these eco-villages has the same structure and plan. They actually are organized to let the people develop their abilities, their virtues in the different fields, and to give this service for the community. Maybe not for earning physical money, but actually to share all this income inside the economic system of this community. Auroville is actually an experiment, an avant-garde experiment in this topic, because they created this system to actually join the community with an amount of money, and then to find a position, a job in the area of interest, of the personal interest, and then living and finding the place, the house, and all the services of a daily life, but it's working inside that. If you are going outside, then you won't have any money, right? To spend for other services. So it is a system that works if you want to really detach, disconnect from the other society. Which it can be fun. It was fun for me for these short times, like 6 months, the maximum I had. But I do believe in the freedom, the chance also to travel. I love to travel, for example, and experience and explore different cultures. So in order to do that, we need money, right?
Do you think that can be a good alternative during this crisis, pandemic, lockdown? Do you think most of the people will think more about this alternative way of living?
Yes, hopefully, yes. I'm already sharing also my experiences as this one, and I also had another one nice encounter with the community in Hawaii, physically really detached from the continents, in the middle of the ocean, where there are also a system of producing and sustainable also for the ecosystem. Because these are the main aspects of these villages, of these communities, that they want to find this harmony with nature, but also with technologies, also with innovative productions, how actually, yes, the medias or arts, but even products, maybe more organic, definitely. And yes, I do believe in this. I do believe this is one possible future. Definitely it is one of my projects in life that actually started to develop also through my creative platform called indiemotion. It started actually observing and studying the ancient indigenous cultures that were organized very well, maybe even better, more harmonic than today society. And they used to have already technologies. So One filter that I use actually to perceive the interdependency of these ancient cultures and our contemporary culture is actually the use of technology. So we think, and there is a misuse also nowadays of talking about new technology. How to think that technology is something new, but it's actually not. And studying and knowing how many products and things that our ancestors, but are humans, that civilization that came before us, that inspired us, created, maybe even with less tools, but probably more efficient and definitely more sustainable. So why don't we say, we talk about ancient and new technologies? Yeah. This is one of the main statements also of my production, where I get inspired by these ancient stories or ancient characters, symbologies, and using actually new technologies. So how to portray these ancient symbols and stories with new innovative tools.
Nice. Well, this crisis is not only an economical crisis, it's a mental, existential crisis, and we have seen in the reported studies across the world there is an increased number of depression, people that suffer of mental disease, suicide. We have seen 25% of increase of suicide in the USA the last year during the pandemic. And the cause of this is many causes of this, of course. Loneliness, isolation, fear of uncertainty, economic fallout. And it reminds me this study was made in 1938. It's the longest study in the human history about happiness. And this study have been taken 800 people from two groups. One group is from Harvard University and the other group from the poorest neighbor in Boston. And they follow all these people that were teenagers all life long. It goes without saying that most of them developed a career, that they became very successful, and so from the bottom to the very top, other from the very top to the very bottom, developed mental disease, depression. One of them became also a president of the United States. And nowadays we have still 60 of these people still alive in their late 90s. But what is important during the study is that all this two group of people that were followed during this 75 years, and the experiment, by the way, is still going on with the children of these people. And during this 75 years, these people have been brain scanned, have been videotaped, have been sent questionnaire to check how they manage their life. And it came this very simple information out of the study that says that the people that were happier and healthier and lived longer were the people that had more relation, which include family, friends and community, connection with family, friends and community, and they had stronger relations. So it means a relation that you can trust, you can rely on. And we all know that you can be alone in a crowd, so you can be alone in a marriage. It's not a matter of the number of relations that we have. The matter is the trust built in our relation. I want to ask you if community living and giving energy to our relation focus on our relations, give trust and gain our trust and build this community and build this very beautiful relation with our friends, family or partners can be the solution to overcome this crisis, which is not only economical but it's mental. We have seen.
Yes, sure. The sense of community. I've contemplated this word a lot and actually facilitated also the creation of community, especially in the dance field. For example, this social distance of this last year for performing artists or practitioners, let's say, who uses bodies, physical body, and the relationship with other body, the contact with other bodies, has been completely denied, cut off. This is a terrible trauma. I don't have other words to say. I don't think actually this has been a good political choice, strategy, because actually as you open up the topic, this affects a lot on the mental health of the people, of the person. So also as a therapist, because yogi teachers are somehow taking care not only of the physical body but also of the mental body, the psychic. We have actually many bodies. This is the science of yoga, to perceiving our being has many layers. We have many layers. Not only this that is defined by the skin, by the shape of a visible body, but also our emotions. And actually, the emotions are spaces that performing artists uses, energies that we have, a tool that we have to use in order to relate with the space and with the audience. But humans are doing this all the time. Actually, we can have this experience in our close relation, like in family or partners. But actually, what we are experiencing now at the social level with this severe social distances, it makes hard even to connect with the family. We are both Italian, and we know how much family is important, how these relations has an impact also. Not only for the social impact, but for the person, for the individual.
The family is important.
La famiglia. Now came to my mind another nice word that I've learned in a village, in a community in Hawaii, as I mentioned before. It is the Hawaiian word for family called ohana. And ohana means extended family. So in their ancient social system, the tribe in the village was, and it is still, structured to embrace and to open the space also for other individuals of different families, not from the same lineage, let's say, not from the same blood. And so there is this openness, this kindness, this welcoming with an authentic embrace. That it's not only physical, but it's really a concept, a vision of life. And these are also the guidelines for the creation of these relationships. But coming back for what we are now actually suffering, what will be the effects that we are already seeing, but maybe we will see, hopefully not, but maybe we will see in the next future with the next generations, that I'm actually very worrying about, because for me, the physical contacts, the energies, the breathing that we are sharing in one space, in one present moment, it is vital, it is a nutrient for our own health and for the wellness of the society, the community.
Absolutely.
So we need to refine, to reconceive probably the levels, of the paradigm of life, what it's really important. Material things that we can have can also disappear easily.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
Actually, how many cultures that disappeared and just gave us some remains with sculptures or architectures, for example, but they still are relating to us through their own bodies, through the languages that our body can memorize.
Yeah.
And so I was saying there is this space of emotions, which is in yoga, for example, connected to the breathing. So there is this knowledge of perceiving our emotions and observing them through our acts of breathing.
Yeah.
So thinking about what are we now experiencing all with the masks and with the limitations of breathing, limitation of emotions, limitation.
Speaking, very hard to speak through this thick mask.
Yes, and our mind projects our thoughts on the body through emotions. So if we cannot express the emotion because we are limited now, all these energies that comes from the mind that usually we release and express through the emotions and through the body stays in the body, in the mind.
Yeah.
And that makes the, crush.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a recent study actually throughout millennials and asked them what makes them happy or how they will be happy in the future, and 80% of them said that if they would be rich, they would be happier, and the 50% said that they will have fame, will be famous, they will be happier. But really, like you said, nothing remains. Nothing remains, like fame doesn't remain object. Working hard doesn't bring you happiness. But we still kind of rely, like unconsciously we think that somehow if we are rich or if we work a 9-to-9 job, we can reach happiness or freedom. It's paradoxical.
Yes, it is. What makes us really happy? Yes, to stay happy, to be happy with oneself. I mean, this is my ambition. In my life experience, but also to share this, because we can also find our practices as yoga to find contentment and to be happy with oneself and with the little things. but then, unless we are like ascetic that lives in a mountain or in a cave, but we are also social being, we need these relationships, yeah. And so I'm very happy now to be here and to have found this space where actually people can reconnect even at one-on-one encounters, but we are still relating with also the languages and the messages that are coming from arts, like in this installation.
At least till now, we can only relate one-to-one. Visitors can only see the exhibition one-to-one. This is the rule, but who knows? Maybe in the next month we're gonna have a public opening. We'll be very happy. But coming back to art, because we are surrounded by artworks in this exhibition called In Commerce, Mario Pavilion. And by speaking to you about communities, alternative ways to live in harmony with oneself, in harmony with the world, inspired me also this work, the entire work of Tiravanija. The work of Tiravanija, Rirkrit Tiravanija, is a Thailandese artist, involves project and discussion about community and way of living, with a core principle of doing less. In the 90s, Tiravanija established the Land Foundation, a piece of land located in Thailand, and there was an open space with integration to grow community discussion, experimentation in other field of thoughts. And in this piece of land, he invited artists, local artists, also international artists to discuss, create new reality and create community. And one of these artists was Philippe Pareno, and there was also Francois Rocher and the Danish collective Superflex. This collective who, throughout the use of animal excrement, they create biogas for cooking and lighting. So it was a little experiment of how to live in total harmony with the environment, with the local community, and at the same time to build kind of a new ideas how could be the world. So my question is, there are alternative ways of living, of course, in harmony with oneself and the world. And do you know other of this example and your experience? Have you been in touch with other example like this?
Yes, actually I mentioned my experience in Hawaii, where I went to study Hawaiian dance, the ancient Hawaiian dance, because this is one of my researches of ancient indigenous cultures through the dance and body language. Yes, I had an art residency in this community called Kalani in the Big Island. Hawaii has many islands and they are living because the volcanoes erupting are creating new lands, and then slowly the old islands disappeared because they are taken by the ocean.
Okay.
So it is also geographically nice to perceive the living force of the land, of the earth, that maybe in the continents we perceive as something static, still, that doesn't change so much. And in Hawaii, actually, you can see this change very often when this volcano erupts. And there is a beautiful community, a regenerative community that actually was created by dancers, by artists. So they built up like 6 open spaces. It's like real pavilions, huge in the forest. So you have all 4 sides open in the fresh green of Hawaii, and close to the ocean. So you have the energy of the nature really strong. And there actually many artists, not only of dance but of music, theater and spiritual researchers, goes for developing through these retreats their program or projects. Actually, also I had the chance to develop one of mine there, and yes, this is actually one of my dreams to find another one, even though I think there is still no one as I'm perceiving in harmony, as you said, with indigenous traditions and new innovative technologies. We are struggling now. I mean, there is now this connection and meeting of the natural law, the laws of nature, and the laws also of the mechanic and the technologies, right?
Sure.
They can find a mutual points and harmony. And yes, this is actually one of the main aspects also of my research, actual now. And so, yes, we should rethink about everything, about all the elements that we are using for our daily life as a person, also as an artist. For example, as a performing artist, I'm designing my costumes and scenographies. To be more sustainable, I like to find also ready-mades and reuse all the stuff, all the elements of my archive or of things that I'm finding even on the streets. And to reuse, to remake, to recreate, to regenerate. I think this is another key word to contemplate, to regenerate, to not take new elements from the earth, from the land,
but retransform.
Yes.
In a more effective way.
And creative, yes.
Yeah. What do you think is going to be the future of performing art? I mean, you are a performing artist currently working as a performing artist, and I mean, here we have an experimental project called telepathic sculpture.
Yes, I love it.
It was a telepathic experiment that I decided to do with a friend of mine in Italy, and he wanted to come here in Berlin, but he couldn't because of the lockdown. So he was stuck in Italy, and but anyway, I wanted to do a project with him, a collaboration. So we decided to collaborate in a telepathic way. So we set the time for meditation, and we try to connect telepathically. And I prepared this little basement of a concrete, fresh concrete, where I sit on for 1 hour. And during this hour, we wrote, we drew, and we did many things together. And then at the end, we shared the experience. And what came out is a way to bypass, my point of view, bypass the limit of space in a time of restriction, in a time of isolation, and also a way to bypass the self, the ego mind. And because when you as an artist interact with the material, you interact as an artist. Your identity as an artist is the identity that's acting in the sculpture, and you have full responsibility somehow of this product. But in this case, I wasn't Andrea Mineo doing the sculpture, and it wasn't Cantos doing the sculpture in the other side. It was both of us. So we create this unification of creative process. No, we create a sculpture without having the limitation of the self and the limitation of the space. It was very funny, actually. I had a lot of fun to do this. It was a performing project, and the product is a sculpture, but essentially it was a performance. So I want to ask you, what do you think is going to be the future of performing art? I mean, we have seen the crisis in like theater, museum. Now, theater, especially like for entertainment, what we call like cultural entertainment, cinema, theater, museum. They are all shut down. What do you think is going to be in the case of performing art? Because performing art looking for bodies, looking for visitors, looking for people, interaction.
Good question. Yes, depends on us. Depends on us. Not only us as artists who produce and propose the acts, but also the relation with the audience. Again, performing arts, it's not only a live act of a physical body that is present, but it's also the presence, the contemporary presence of the audience. So it is in that relationship of the performer and the audience. So the concept of liveness makes the differences of cinema or other medias, as you mentioned before, that can still produce more easy than theater or dance, where actually we need the space in common, a common space to host the audience and the performer, for the energy. For the energy and actually that thrill that passes through the acts and the reaction of the audience.
Okay.
Because it is a reaction. It is effects and reaction, right? So audience can still have this effect, because even in the live acts online on digital platform, the audience can have a sense of thrill, right? Of the performing acts. But for the performer it's different, because we cannot see the audience. We cannot perceive their breathing, their emotions, their faces, the reactions of the emotions. So we have to reimagine. We have to reimagine what can be that effect. And yes, definitely this is a very inspiring in a way, because we are also finding new use of the medias. I already had this experience for the production, as you mentioned in your experience of creating performing arts at distance. For example, with visual artists or musicians. I used to produce even from different countries, like in Japan or one in Netherlands, and I was in Italy.
Without communicating?
Communicating online,
online.
through Skype and all these platforms.
Not telepathically.
Not telepathically, but it happens. It happens, definitely, if we are dreaming, because we also are taking inspiration from dreams, right? From projections that we launch in the space, and that the space, of course, finds ways to reconnect. But yes, performing arts in the future, definitely more extended. So if we cannot have the audience in one space, in one time, maybe we can have an extended audience at the same time in different countries.
Like hologram, like an hologram.
Yes. I actually I do believe that in a way we are holograms. Parts of our lives can continue to exist at different space-time.
Different level of information of us still exists. The information is not lost, but the physicality transforms.
Always.
Yeah.
Yes, and this is yes, and probably this transformation of the body through the perception of the media is definitely something that I can say is already changing the performing arts now. I started to do it 1 year ago, before this crisis of coronavirus, perceiving my identity as a performing artist at the digital realm existence. I can tell you this little story. It was also very practical, because Kaartik, that I use as a stage name till last year, was not recognizable on all the social media, because if you were typing Kaartik, you could find a lot of Bollywood actors of movie stars from India, because the Kaartik is an Indian name, very famous and used there. But they could never find my productions here in the West, let's say. So I say, okay, I'm producing, but I know that I also have to share and to show all my productions online, right?
Not only in Bollywood.
Not only, yes, and not only in India, of course. So I say, okay, I need to find a digital identity to be found when you type as an algorithm, right? And then I started to perceive all these nicknames that people are using in the social media, like Instagram, right? Where you cannot always use your real name because it's already used by somebody else.
Yeah.
So I have to find an authenticity of a digital presence of my production as a performing artist. And I said, okay, what I am Denny, because this is the birth name. I am still Kaartik, because I was reborn in India with this name. But I'm also a producer and teacher through this creative platform called indiemotion. So I'm a designer and performer and producer. So there are three of us also sometimes collaborating and co-creating, yes, together. Okay, so I put together the K, the D, and the indie as an acronym that became kdindie. That has not a gender identity. Because, for example, I'm also exploring the transformation of the gender identity, and not only as a human being, as usually we say non-binary person. I didn't like that term. I didn't like the negative way to say, okay, you are not binary. As to say that we are living in a binary world, like in the digital realm. Okay, let's come out from this binary of the digital realm. And I do believe that not only me, but all humans are trinary. Because we have one masculine and one feminine sides. But we have also one inner and maybe most precious essence that is a neutral.
Wow.
It's like two hands from right and left that connects at the center of the hearts. And is that kid, is that child, that inner child that plays and can actually jump from one side to the other. And performing artists usually do this. So kdindie, I love that playful sound and also to conceive our presence and performing at digital platforms without being too much identified in one only physical body or one only ego identity, because kdindie is plural.
That's wonderful. It's a nice idea. It's like atoms. No, we have electrons, like a positive and negative charge, and then we have neutral charge: electron, proton, neutron. Do you think that a digital platform, new media, as you mentioned, can support this change in performing art? Like, I mean, we have seen with lockdown, from Zooming clients to neighborhood WhatsApp group, digital platform have somehow become the only way for many of us to work, to connect with people, to get fit with the yoga lessons, and to be educated and entertained. So I want to ask you, if, do you think new media or new technology can support the performing art to develop in a new form, in a new way?
Yes. Actually, there are many organizations worldwide now investing also much energy and finance to find the proper technologies, tools that are actually very expensive, because in order to have a nice quality and a sense of authenticity,
the clarity of the image.
The clarity of what actually bodies in a space can express. You need to have a lot of technologies. And if you want to do it live, like broadcasting this, you also need many other tools and technologies and hardwares, softwares to connect and to harmonize, because it's also there is also an attitude to harmonize these technologies. So for performing artists, sometimes it's stressful to have a lot of presence, like actually these hardwares that we are using here in the space, and at the same time we have to relate with other bodies or imagining the reaction of the audience. So there's a lot of information, many more information that are passing through that live act. But yes, I think what now fascinates me is actually to find this harmony with the technicians that stays behind the hardware, behind the camera, or behind that software, or there are different languages, but we can find common codes to decodify the languages, for example, of performing arts of the body, and the codes of e-learning or the software that we are using for that production. So it's about translating the messages. And yes, definitely body language can be more useful for this, because for the speaking languages, maybe the other technician behind the camera doesn't speak the same language, comes from another country, right? But and this actually happens quite often. But through gestures, through pointing and signing maybe, and finding a common language, we can find the harmony, right?
Sure.
And I think this is the most exciting aspect now of this development process.
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel to tell any advice for the performing artists that are now stuck in whatever, in a lockdown?
Be playful, because we are at the same time very fortunate to have a lot of tools. It's very easy now to use a smartphone as a camera for short video in whichever place we are in that moment, right? To be creative and playful, to not be afraid of being perfect, because I think the limitation of creativity also comes. It also comes very often for myself too, where we use filters, when we can correct the image, when we can correct the lighting, where we can recreate the hologram, right, of that realm. Sometimes this stops the creative process, because the audience, we think, wants to see the perfection of the image. But sometimes I do prefer the authenticity of that rough cut, or noisy, white noisy, or whichever color makes noise on the image. To find the uniqueness and of what we want to communicate in that moment.
Yeah, without so much filter.
Yes. Or if using them, using them with meaningfulness, not only for the aesthetic of giving an impact, a visual impact, that it makes you say wow for a second, and then you swipe and you forget about it, right? Yeah. But something that really can maybe attract to go deeper in maybe the sense of that.
What's your dream for the future as a performer?
I'm now in Berlin since a few months, so definitely to create and to co-create also with other artists and to find a community here, yes, and to open through also these new platforms in the digital realm worldwide. To be aware that even if we are living in one village or in a big town or whatever country in the world, thanks to these tools, we can easily produce and then share or co-create, with all the world. And I found this amazing.
Nice. I'm in, definitely. Where do people can find you? You have a website, Instagram, whatever platform you want to share?
Yes, I reconnect actually all my identities in one code. It's kdindie, KDINDIE.
Okay.
Kdindie.com is my website, and you can find me kdindie also on Instagram and Facebook.
Nice. Thank you for coming. Kdindie?
Yes, we are very pleased and happy to be here and to have the experience of being creative even in this social restriction.
Yeah, but actually it's the best time to understand, to overcome our humanity, as Nietzsche said, to overcome our being human and became superhuman or kdindie. Thank you. I really enjoyed your experience. Cut.